Adding and working with image files is done in the Image tab. In the Image tab, I have access to different libraries with a selection of stock images, and I have my own library called Generic, which holds my own uploaded images. Adding images to the designer, simply click the Upload button, and from here, I can either drag and drop image files, or I can click and then browse my local storage for files. Image file formats supported are JPEG, PNG, and ZIP files. I have a file which I need for my design, so I drag it from the folder into the Dropbox. The image file will be put in the generic category, but if needed, I can add categories by clicking the Add Value. Adding search tags is a useful feature. In the case I need this image in future projects, searching for tags makes it a lot easier to find when the image libraries are holding a lot of images. The tags I will add to this file is mask and theater. Click Enter after each tag. Clicking OK, the image file will be uploaded to the Designer database. The time spent for uploading depends on the file size as well as the available speed of the internet. When the image file has been imported, it is available in the library selected during the import stage. In this case, in the library called Generic. When working with multiple objects in a design, it can be useful to put objects in different layers. This has the benefit that layers can be hidden in order to have a better overview. And layers can also be locked so that there is no risk to move objects by accident while working with other objects. Opening the Layers tool, I have an overview of the layers used. Currently, just the one layer which contains the text object is in the tool, but I can use the plus button to add more layers. Double-clicking this new layer, I can rename the layer into something more useful. Locking the layer with a text object forces new objects to be placed in the layer which is not locked, so clicking the image in the library places it in the layer I named Image. The image is also visible in the layer thumbnail. When activating the image, it can be moved around. Similar to working with text, I can distort the scaling by pressing Shift on the keyboard. If the scaling of the image results in the resolution being lower than the value set in the Design Settings dialog, a low-res image warning will appear in the image. The warning can be bypassed, but scaling the resolution below 150 dpi may result in poor print quality. The image is covering the text object. This is because the image layer lies on top of the text layer. Opening the Layers tool, I can rearrange the layers by simply dragging the layers to the correct order. I lock the image layer and unlock the layer containing the text, and I can now freely move the text without risking moving the image. I am only moving the text object with the structural ink, which is not recommended as I need these two objects to print on top of each other. So undo that operation and click and drag across these two objects to select them both, and use the Group tool to create a group which can be moved without risking misalignment. I am going to add a pattern in structural ink to the image background, which will make the mask stand out. I hide the layer containing the text. Double-clicking the image gives access to a range of tools related to images. I will use the Lasso tool to outline the mask by setting anchor points along the edge of the mask. If a curved vector between the anchors is needed, shaping the vector is done by dragging while clicking. If anchors needs to be deleted, I can use the pen with the minus, called Remove. When done outlining the mask, I am closing the lasso by clicking on the starting point. The lasso I just created allows me to manipulate the mask. But for this design, I will add a pattern to the background of the mask, so I click the invert button to allow me to work with the background. Using the lasso selection, I can color the selection, add a stroke along the lasso, and work with the opacity. Clicking the Fill Color and then the Pattern tab takes me to the pattern libraries, where I can select the pattern which suits my design ideas the best. When the pattern is applied to the image, closing the libraries lets me change the properties of the selected pattern. I can type in different values for size to see if it works in the design. The default settings of the lasso tool generates a black stroke which does not benefit my design. To remove this black stroke, I am selecting the background which the stroke is a part of, and now the color can be changed in stroke color. Setting it to none would be an option, but setting the stroke color to structural will have the mask pop out better. The default stroke width is set to 1.4 millimeters, which is the recommended minimum. For the mask size, I will apply a different pattern. Creating a new pattern and creating a new path in the same image, I create a new sublayer in the layer containing the image. Open the Layers tool and expand the image layer, which will reveal the sublayers of the image itself and the existing path containing the background pattern. Locking and hiding the sublayer, I can create new paths in the same image. Double-click the image opens the toolbox which holds the Selector tool. The Selector tool selects areas of similar colors and contrast. The Tolerance tool adjusts how wide the Selector tool operates. Click in the image with the Selector tool active, which will select part of the area. I can add more parts of the image by pressing and holding the Shift key while clicking in the image. The plus button visualizes this. Subtracting from the selected area is done by clicking the image while pressing and holding the Alt key. When the selection is complete, I can manipulate the area with colors and/or patterns with or without structural ink. Patterns can be inverted if needed. And it is also possible to change the size of the pattern, the position and rotation as well. Per default, the stroke of the selection is colored black. I change the stroke color to structural instead, which will help the area with the pattern to stand out. The recommended minimum stroke width for structural ink is 1.4 millimeters. For the other eye in the mask, I repeat the process. Open the Layers tool, lock and hide the sublayers containing the existing paths. Double-clicking the image to activate the image tools. Use the Selector tool to select the areas to be affected. In this case, I need to deselect areas and I press and hold the Alt key to subtract from the selection. When the selection is ready, fill with a pattern in structural ink. I am going with the same pattern. And finally, I change the stroke color to structural with the recommended minimum width of 1.4 mm.